MTG Scoundrels, it's in the cardboard. Ladies and gentlemen, scoundrels of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Modern Weekly. Today on the docket, we have Gruul Eldrazi Control versus 5-color Omnath. Getting started fast here. Both players on 6. Misty Rainforest. Into the opponent going with Commercial District to Surveil, leaving it on top. And fetching on the end step here. Also finding a Surveil land. Surveil land's probably the best non-shock dual land in the modern format. Amazing how much utility they have. The 5-color player putting the One Ring in the bin probably means they have one in hand. Playing a tapped shock and saying go. Gruul Eldrazi just playing Eldrazi Temple and passing. There's a Plains into a Teferi Time Raveler. Looks like that's the new art from Bloomborough. Bird Fairy has been declared. Forest for the Eldrazi player. Into a turn 3 Thought-Knot here. Well, that is a hand of magic cards. I mean, in general, exiling a One Ring's probably your best bet here. It looks like that was the case. Still, already having Teferi out and a One Ring in hand. Not great. Speaking of, there is the One Ring. We're at 20 to 17. 5-color player tapping it to draw a card. Thought-Knot's here, going in after the Teferi. And fetching. These Eldrazi control decks, it is a little bit different. You used to see E-Tron, of course, just playing Tron lands and such. But these Eldrazi control decks are just trying to take advantage of Kozilek's Return as much as possible and have green mana to be able to cast Sowing Mycospawn, as well as World Breaker. And there's One Ring. Dueling Rings. Tapping it here to draw a card. And passing the turn. Drawing 2. After taking a damage. And there is Omnath. Drawing another card. There's one thing that these 5-color Omnath decks, at one point, lovingly known as 5-color Money Pile. It's one thing they do, it's draw cards. There's an Eldrazi Temple, 7 mana available, which is really the sweet spot for these Gruul Eldrazi decks. Lets them cast pretty much everything that they can in hand. Unless they're main boarding Breaker of Creation. Alright, there's a Devourer of Destiny. That'll exile the Omnath. Somehow with all that card draw, still managed to not find a land to play with Omnath there. Taking 2 in the upkeep, drawing 3 cards. The One Ring, somehow not banned in this format. There's the other Omnath we saw earlier. There's a land to gain 4 life. Should have drawn the card first there. Order of operations. Fully resolve your Omnath before playing the land, folks. You could get called for it at an RCQ. Fetching. Going to 13. Now these 5-color Omnath decks are definitely better at managing their life totals off the One Ring, thanks to Omnath. And considering the amount of cards you draw, it really lets you go One Ring into the One Ring very easily. And there is a Scion of Draco off the floating mana from the Omnath. That is one thing that I believe we will be seeing much more of, is Leyline of the Guild Pact and Scion of Draco now that Nadu's out of the format, and especially now that Grief's out of the format. There is a Leyline binding, targeting the One Ring. The Eldrazi player will tap it to draw 2 cards. Leyline binding taking the One Ring here. Static Prison, I still think, is the best O-ring in the format, but Leyline binding's right there. Land for the Eldrazi player. Alright. Well, there is a Kozilek's Command. Now, the Omnath does have hexproof here, thanks to the Scion. So there probably was a world where you attack first to try to get rid of the Omnath. Alright. Make an Eldrazi spawn's going to exile the graveyard here. Seems like the Gruul player is trying to sniff out a Phlage. Because, you know, why not play Phlage if you're the 5-color deck? With all the surveil lands, I mean, it's pretty easy to get all the stuff in the bin you need to. And with the amount of cards you draw for the One Ring, could really put as much as you need to into that bin. Devourer of Destiny getting in here. It looks like a double block, which is a decision. The Eldrazi player choosing to kill the Scion, probably smart. And then deciding to exile the Omnath with another Kozilek's Command, essentially making 4 spawns again. So staying even on mana. 5-color Omnath, taking 3, drawing 4. Ten cards have been drawn off that One Ring. And there's another Omnath. Gaining 4 life. Surveilling. And here is a Solitude. Exiling... Well, looks like that's one of the new frogs from the Bloom Barrow set. I'll bring us to 22 to 14. And the 5-color player will draw a card off the Thought-Knot Seer, leaving the battlefield. Why not put a Phlage in the graveyard? Seems fine. Land for turn for the Eldrazi player. And there is a Sowing Mycospawn. Looks like kicked here. Yeah, going after the source of black mana. Probably the smart thing for all the different domain cards the 5-color player is using. So the Untitled Triome getting exiled. And the Eldrazi player finding a Cavern of Souls. Looks like naming Eldrazi here. To no shocker to anyone. And there's a Kozilek's command. Exiling the Omnath, third one exiled, and exiling the entire graveyard for the 5-color player here. Losing 4 more life, going back to 10. We've seen this story before. Sometimes they've just drawn the 4th Omnath. Gaining 4 life off of the land coming into play. Fetching. Flooded Strand is going to find looks like finding an untapped breeding pool here. Which will give mana to cast a Phlage. Hitting the Sowing Mycospawn, going back to 22 to 14. A tale as old as this video. And with the remaining mana and the 2 open lands, casting 6. And passing the turn. Two mana, Talisman of Impulse, and passing. Back to 22 to 10. Back to 22 to 14. Fetching once again. This one will come in tapped. There's a Scion of Draco. Land will go to hand off the 6 attack. Taking 6 here from the Omnath and the 6. And passing, untapping and drawing. The 4th Kozilek's command. Exiling the bin, for sure. Don't want to see that Phlage come back. And scrying and drawing. Unfortunately, once again, that Omnath having hexproof. Well, there's an argument to get rid of the 6, but looking at that hand, there wasn't a ton left. Maybe just a talisman. So why not sculpt the top of your deck a little bit here? Drawing a card. I guess put a One Ring on top. Passing the turn. Drawing 5 here on the end step. That looks like a One Ring. Nope, that'll be a subtlety. Untapping. The One Ring matters so little here, waited to cast the subtlety on the end step instead of in response. Lost 5 at the beginning. Plays a land, gains 4. There's a Teferi. Minusing the Teferi, bouncing the One Ring to hand. The 5-color player's favorite thing to do. And there's a Leyline of the Guild Pact. That'll give everything hexproof, thanks to the Scion of Draco out. And of course everything will gain lifelink and trample. And that 6 should have vigilance as well, because it gained all colors thanks to the Leyline. Oof. Leyline binding. Entering the graveyard. There's a land. To stop that One Ring activation. To cast Leyline binding with Retrace. Sometimes that's just how it goes. Discarding hand size and passing. And looks like, yep, that was a Devourer of Destiny on top, which won't do it. Gruul Eldrazi scooping it up here. Game 1 going to the 5-color Omnath player. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe. Be a friend, tell a friend. So happy all of you have joined us here on the channel. Thank you for tuning in. The Eldrazi player probably taking out a certain amount of bad cards in this matchup. Though there's not too many, you might just be shaving around the edges. And of course, the 5-color player probably bringing in some Obsidian Charmaw of some sort, maybe some Consigns to Memory. Or maybe not. Now, if you're interested in either of these deck lists, definitely check the description below. There are deck lists as well as timestamps for the individual games to go back and forth at your leisure. And if you're interested in some new tokens, and high quality tokens at that, definitely check out our friends over at Arcane Artistry. They make wonderful tokens in a stained glass style, specifically food, clues, and treasures. Line them up, they make a panorama. And in the future here, they are also going to be having a new set of tokens coming out. Of course, we will let you know that here on the channel when it does, but they're also planning on playmats possibly going up in the store as well to show off the panorama. So definitely check them out. Link is in the description to their Etsy store. Now, of course, on our left here, we have Jason, one of the mainstays of the channel, also a local Eldrazi player. Known to occasionally demonstrate some loops with food combo. And on the right here, we have Noah on his favorite list, which is really anything that has Omnath in it. And in this case, been brewing up this 5-color Omnath list for a minute. I think the addition of Phlage is really smart here. Also, looking at my notes, I believe this is technically a Karuga deck, so Consign to Memory probably not coming in. There's the Karuga. Was not revealed in Game 1. Both players deciding on how many cards they're going to keep. Both keeping 7 pregame action, Leyline of the Guild Pact, because that's what you want to see if you're the 5-color player. Starting off with a Ugin's Labyrinth and passing the turn. Misty Rainforest pass. Looks like that's a Emrakul the Promised End underneath that Ugin's Labyrinth. Playing a Misty Rainforest and passing as well. Finding the Surveil land here. Putting the Flooded Strand in the bin. Untapping, drawing. Playing another fetch land and passing the turn. Gruul Eldrazi player fetching on end step. Bringing us to 19 all. Finding the commercial district. Untapping. Well, surveilling first. Already untapped, but one thing you got to do is make sure you do your surveil before you untap. Luckily hasn't drawn a card yet. Comp REL matters in that sense. Keeping it on top and drawing. Playing the Gemstone Caverns. And playing the One Ring. Usually not a bad spot. Turn 3 One Ring. Let's go ahead and draw a card. Fetching, finding a surveil land here. Surveilling, looks like leaving it on top. Or making the decision still. Yep, leaving it on top, untapping, drawing. And there's an Obsidian Charmaw. Sometimes you get Charmawed. Take 1 damage off the ring. Draw 2 more cards. Nobody feeling sorry for the Gruul Eldrazi player, but wow. Turn 3 Charmaw. Fetching. Finding a forest. Not a lot of turn 3 plays. There's an Ancient Stirrings. Doing some digging. Finding an Ugin's Labyrinth. That's how you start to rebuild. How about another Ancient Stirrings? Find another land. Try to mitigate the damage from the Charma and passing the turn. Taking 2 to cast Omnath, attacking for 4. Taking 2 more in the upkeep. There's a forest. Alright, there's a Sowing Mycospawn. Finding an Eldrazi Temple. Passing the turn. Probably should have drawn cards there while they were tapped out. There's a land, gaining 4 life. Fetching. Not that the 5-color player really needs to fetch here, but gaining 4 mana. Playing another Obsidian Charma. I mean, if there was a perfect draw for this 5-color deck after sideboarding, that would do it. Play a 6. Attack in, block the Omnath. Go to 7. And the rarely used third mode of Omnath, dealing 4 damage. That's going to put the Eldrazi player to 3. What a hand. Going to 1. Wow. Yeah, why not? Draw 3 cards. Revealing a breaker creation that would have caught up on life a little bit. But that is game, set, match going to the 5-color Omnath player. What a match. And what a hand in game 2. Thank you all so much for watching us here at MTG Scoundrels. If you enjoy our content, please like and subscribe, be a friend, tell a friend. And in this post-Nadu world, we will see you all next week.